Feeling a little overwhelmed by just how fast AI is moving? You're trying to figure out how to turn all that buzz into a real concrete project plan for 2025? Well, you're not alone. So many project managers struggle with this. That's why we put together this explainer, to cut through all the noise and give you a clear, actionable framework to get your AI initiative structured and on track. Yeah, if that question resonates with you, you are definitely in the right place. The whole AI landscape can feel pretty chaotic, for sure. But here's the thing. Underneath all that chaos, there is a clear, repeatable pattern for success. So, why do so many AI projects seem to go off the rails? It's usually because we're trying to use an old map for a new territory. A traditional software plan is pretty linear. You design it, you build it, you test it. But an AI project, that's a whole different beast. It's a living system. It's completely dependent on data. It has to iterate constantly, and it has these performance loops that you just don't see in other projects. It demands a new blueprint. And that is exactly what we're going to give you. A framework that provides real structure and confidence. Something that moves you from feeling overwhelmed to feeling totally equipped to lead your next big AI initiative. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's our 5-part blueprint. First, we'll tackle the unique challenge of AI projects. Then, we'll set our strategic North Star to make sure we're headed in the right direction. After that, we'll talk about the most critical part, fueling your AI engine with data. Then we'll build the action plan, and finally, we'll cover what might be the biggest mindset shift of all, the never-ending final step. All right, Section 1, the AI Project Challenge. Before you write a single line of your plan, you've got to start with a mental reset. You have to truly accept that AI projects are just different. They're not about checking off boxes on a Gantt chart, they're exploratory by nature. If you don't internalize this, even the most detailed plan is going to run into trouble. Which brings us right to our first big action step, setting your strategic North Star. Way too many AI projects kick off with this vague wish, like, hey, we should probably use AI for something. That is a perfect recipe for burning time and money. We have to get from these fuzzy ideas to a concrete, measurable goal. And here is what that looks like in the real world. A vague goal is just a task, right? Implement a chatbot. Okay, but a strategic AI goal is a business outcome. Build a chatbot to resolve 80% of Tier 1 issues without human escalation within 3 months. You feel the power in that difference? It's specific, it's measurable, and it gives your whole team a crystal clear finish line. Let's just zero in on that number for a second. 80%. A single metric like this completely changes the game. It's not just a tech project anymore. It's a strategic initiative with a clear performance target. That number becomes the guiding light for every single decision you and your team make from here on out. So for you, as a project manager, this is the one question you have to keep asking. What's the KPI? What key performance indicator are we actually trying to move? Is it accuracy? Is it cutting down on manual work? Is it boosting revenue? That connection is what gives your project its reason for being. Now, once that goal is locked in, you can actually define your Phase 1 deliverables. Think of this as your MVP, your minimum viable product. What absolutely has to be ready for launch? You're going to need that data pipeline working, an initial model trained and tested, some basic integration with your current systems, and of course, a dashboard to see how it's all performing. These are the non-negotiables. Okay, so we've got a clear goal. Now it's time to fuel the engine. This brings us to what is, without a doubt, the absolute core of every single AI project. Because a brilliant model with a perfect strategy is totally worthless without the right fuel, your data. If there is one truth in the world of AI, it is this. I want you to let this sink in. Data is the lifeblood. It's not just some component, it's the entire foundation. Your timeline, your budget, your success, everything, and I mean everything, comes down to the quality and availability of your data. Get this right, and you're already halfway to the finish line. So what does a solid data plan actually look like? Well, it has to answer 4 key questions. First, where are we getting this data? Is it internal, public, from an API? Second, how are we going to clean it up? Third, who is going to label it so the model can learn from it? And finally, how do we make absolutely sure we're compliant with regulations like GDPR or HIPAA right from the start? And here's a lesson that so many teams learn the hard way. The biggest bottleneck in your project probably won't be writing code. It's going to be data. Sourcing it, cleaning it, labeling it, it all takes a ton of time. So please, Make start sourcing data the very first task on your project plan. Okay, so we've got our North Star, we've got a plan for our fuel. Now we can start building the rest of the machine, the action plan. This is where we get into the nuts and bolts, the technology you'll use, the timeline you'll follow, and all the new kinds of risks you need to plan for. This is where your tech lead becomes your absolute best friend. Together, you're going to make some crucial calls on your tech stack. Things like which AI framework to use, like a TensorFlow or a PyTorch. You'll also figure out hosting, and, a really big one, can you use a pre-trained model to get a massive head start, or do you need to build from scratch? You know, a smart plan isn't just about what will go right. It's about what could go wrong. And AI brings a whole new flavor of risks to the table. Is there hidden bias in your data that could lead to unfair outcomes? What's your plan for model drift, which is that natural decay in performance over time? Thinking about these things up front is just smart plan. So what should your timeline actually look like? My advice? Ditch the old waterfall chart. Your milestones need to revolve around the AI model's lifecycle. It flows from collecting data to training the model to evaluating it against your KPIs, and then after you deploy, it goes into this continuous monitoring loop. See, it's a circle, not a straight line.
And here's a pro tip for that timeline. A buffer isn't optional, it's essential. AI is all about iteration. You will need to retrain your model. I guarantee it. So budgeting time for those extra cycles isn't a sign of failure. It's the sign of a mature, realistic plan.
And this brings us to our final section, and it's probably the single biggest mindset shift you'll have to make. With old school software, you deploy it and you move on to maintenance mode. With AI, deployment is really just the beginning of the journey. There is no final step. Your plan has to be built around this iteration cycle. You train the model, you validate it with fresh data, you get real feedback from your users, and then you take all of that new information and you use it to retrain the model. This loop right here is the engine that drives AI improvement. So here's the ultimate takeaway. You have to let go of the idea of a static, set-in-stone project plan. Your plan has to be a living, breathing blueprint, designed from day one to adapt and evolve right alongside the model it's there to manage. And that brings us to the whole shebang. This 7-part blueprint is your go-to checklist for putting together a really solid AI project plan. From defining success with clear metrics all the way to planning for iteration from the very beginning. This is your template for building AI with confidence in 2025. So there you have it. You have the framework to go from feeling overwhelmed to taking clear, decisive action. You've got the blueprint. The only question left is, what's the first problem you're going to go out and solve?